Hello, I am Joel McLeod.
I'm Roland Tanner.
And welcome to the Thursday 905 Roundup. We are coming off an exciting episode that we had where we had, I think it was our first opposing viewpoints head-to-head battle royale over the exciting issue of Halton boundary expansion, which actually is beginning a lot of response, a lot of positive response, not from one side or the other, just the fact that we had a good, clean discussion on the facts and just on people's viewpoints from Burlington Councillor Paul Sharman, who's obviously has come out in favor of expanding urban boundaries in the Halton region, and Halton Hills Councillor Jane Fogel, who is not in favor of expanding the urban boundaries. Roland, what were your thoughts on that different of an episode?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was an enjoyable episode to record, actually, for that reason. I mean, we should try and do more, and like we always try and include multiple perspectives, but we're a small podcast and we're kind of learning how to do this, and we're doing it in whatever time we have when we've got left over. So, but it's definitely to hear two good opinions, if you like, two well-informed opinions that and points well made, and not just kind of reduced to either a soundbite or actually a kind of trying to trip up the other person kind of debate, which is pretty futile, is really helpful. I mean, obviously, it's after the vote has happened, but I don't think these debates are far from over in Halton or anywhere else, I think. And yeah, I think coming back to that this is not, we're in such a polarized frame of mind about everything these days that our inclination is to think this side is right, the other side are evil. And no, that's not the case. I mean, it's my personal feeling before this episode was that the situation in Halton region as a whole is more nuanced than in Hamilton. It seemed to me that Hamilton, to sort of expand the urban boundaries in Hamilton is just an admission of kind of failure and not giving a damn, when there are huge acres of parking lots downtown just sitting vacant. Mm-hmm. Urban downtown intensification and rejuvenation just seems so obviously needed and available to be done. That's somewhat different in Halton, where we're not just talking about housing and sprawl, but we are talking about employment lands and other things. Now, my gut feeling is that if I was in that position, if I was a regional councillor, I probably almost definitely would have been ultimately on the side of don't expand the boundary. But that doesn't mean I don't hear the arguments on the other side and I think, well, yeah, I mean, there is no, however many people come to Halton and want to live in Halton, we have to accept them. There's no kind of upper limit on that where you put a fence across the road and say, no, you can't come in. And the question is, if the urban boundary expansion was allowed, would the development that happened on those lands be a damn sight better than what we've put on such lands in the past? Mm-hmm. Paul, Councillor Sharman, I should say, painted a rosy picture of this isn't going to be just single family homes, it's going to be townhouses wherever. Maybe, but you never know until the developer comes forward and says this is what we want, what they're going to ask for.
I thought Councillor Sharman, had a really good argument, and it was true. People want to come and live here. The Halton region and the 905 is a phenomenal place to live, and we all live here. We all know it. You'd be a fool not to want to live here. Mostly, it's great places to raise your kids, raise your family, to work from home, and just live. So yeah, I'm not surprised that people want to come to move here. And there's something that he said that I thought is it's true, but I thought his remedy for the situation was a bit off. That was the fact that since people are going to always want to come to live here, and we can't stop them, nor should we, we're just always going to have to consider expanding. There is no limit. When I asked him, like, when do we stop the boundary? And he said, never. I thought, well, that's not true, because even the fact is, the region of Halton can't expand past its region. It actually has like a fixed border. Now you can keep expanding, but I think the problem is that attitude. It's kind of what led us to this problem, is that we just kept saying, oh no, we're just going to build these cookie cutter subdivisions and we'll just keep building one after the other, because we just assumed that we always would. And we're now starting to come around to the idea that no, that's not possible. You can't just keep driving out and just, building in the next subdivision, in the next supermarket, in the next strip mall, and whatnot. That this isn't a sustainable way of development. So I can appreciate his concern about the fact that people want to come living here. Very true. It's a very real problem. I'm not sure his solution is feasible for the long-term health of the region.
I think Councillor Sharman would not think I was misrepresenting him if I said that he's the kind of guy who believes in market solutions to problems. And my feeling is that the housing market is very kind of dysfunctional for all kinds of reasons. Not necessarily always because of one person or another person being to blame. It's a big complicated beast that whenever something gets built, you have a whole load of competing interests that are at play. But ultimately, I think, the housing affordability crisis isn't going to be solved by market forces, because it never has been. You look at other countries that have large swathes of affordable housing stock, that those were usually built by levels of government.
Here's the thing: like, if we leave it to the market, the easiest. The problem with that argument, I think, is that when you say, well, the market will sort itself out, and you say, well, what does the market demand? The market wants single-use family homes or single-family dwellings and subdivisions, because that's what people buy. And I look and say, yes, but that's really the only thing that's on the market. If you're like, the idea is, you're gonna buy, you don't buy a condo unit, because the idea is, that's temporary. You buy a unit and they're only like 1 or maybe 2 bedroom units. They're not built for families. The idea isn't, we're going to have like a duplex, triplex, 4-story building that is built to house families. That kind of living. And so, the market's going to say, well, if those are your options, the options are, well, you get maybe a 1 or maybe 2 bedroom condo unit in a tower, or single family home. Well, if you're a family of 4, the answer is going to be, well, I'm going to take the single family home because that's what's going to meet my needs. But if you have a variety of different needs, there might be families say, well, I don't want the yard. I really don't want to spend the property taxes on maintaining a yard and all that square footage. We don't need that. All I want is really space enough for my family to have their stuff, go relax at the end of the day, be safe, etc., work from home, or go hop on the highway for a commute, whatever the case may be. We do need to have more flexible options in the marketplace. If you want that market, the market will provide a solution. And I don't think we quite have it yet. And I just want to add one final point. I know I was saying my problem with Councillor Sharman. I did have a bit of a problem with Councillor Fogel's remedy, and it might be overstepping my bounds, but it's the same argument that I have with everybody who wants something different, is that we always go back to our city councils. And it's something that we've talked about in this podcast, is the power ultimately lies at the provincial levels right now. And what I would have liked to have heard isn't so much, we need to, city council needs to, prove better solutions. It's we need to organize the various municipalities around the 905 and around Ontario to say, no, enough's enough. We have to push back and start demanding better options from the province in legislation, and give municipalities better powers or better tools to shape their communities to provincial standards.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perennial kind of issue on this podcast. And just coming back to both the councillors, Councillor Fogel, Councillor Sharman, I thought represented their perspectives very well. It doesn't mean you can agree with them, you can disagree with them, whatever. It was interesting to hear those contrasting opinions so closely together, and I thank them both for coming on to take part in that. But yeah, the perennial problem is, I mean, Councillor Sharman basically said at the end of his interview, well, the province will come and overrule this, particularly if we assume that the current government continues after the next election, which may or may not happen. Councillor Fogel was more optimistic, thinking that they would respect it. I think they'll respect it until the election's over, is what I think. They're not going to wade into a contentious issue right before an election. But I would think they'd be happy to wade into it about 2 weeks afterwards.
Well, we'll find out June 3rd.
Yeah, and I mean, this is just the perennial problem with Canada, with the weakness of our cities is built right into the Constitution. They are the best way of thinking of them is to think of them as minor departments within the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, and that they have this sort of democratic aspect kind of pinned onto them, but really they're not independent in any true sense.
No.
Other than at the gift of the province. And it's an issue. I mean, I'm not saying that, clearly councils, municipal governments do very often make really dumb judgments, and that can be affected by very narrow and small interests at a local level. However, you can say the same at a federal level. I mean, governments at every level can be dumb. It doesn't mean you throw democracy out of the window and just say, well, forget it then. Let's just have a dictatorship. It's the best system we've got. And I think with the right circumstances, I mean, it's almost the weakness of municipal government almost encourages that kind of narrowness and short-sightedness, because there's the kind of, the stakes are kind of lower because the province is always there to sort of come in and do the unpopular thing for you. I mean, we're kind of seeing that with Hamilton right now, where the council will let things go to LPAT, basically knowing fine and well that LPAT is going to overrule it, very often as they should. I mean, the LPAT doesn't always do the wrong thing. They let it go there over issues
just remind our listeners, it's the Ontario Land Tribunal.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yes, congratulations to anybody who can keep up with the name changes, because I can't. The OLT.
That's it in a nutshell, is that it's, I mean, there's something that we hope that we'll be able to talk about on the future episodes, is the proposed changes that the province is bringing down for their housing affordability task force. That there was good and there was bad in it. Part of it is that they just push it. I don't know. I think we're getting a bit. We might be getting a bit off track there. But the point is that communities honestly want. I think they want the power to develop on their own. I think if you give them a framework to move into, and just honestly at some point you just have to trust that they can do it. And it might not be a matter of developers saying, well, this is too difficult. It might be a matter of the developer having to figure out how to build within the confines of what a municipality wants. You can't just say, oh, I want to build a 100-story condo tower here, because, yeah, it doesn't fit. But you know what? If a city says, well, no, we want this neighborhood to be full of 4-story duplex or triplex housing, that's going to be we're going to start densifying this neighborhood. You know, that's your trick.
One of the problems that we're facing is because I believe it was a Supreme Court decision, 10, 20 years ago. I mean, a long time ago now. That basically said, you know, the government does not have the right to say where immigrants have to go. Once you're in Canada, you can live anywhere. And that means that the GTA is by far the most kind of attractive location for new immigrants to come to. So that's behind some of this. There's like, you know, in an ideal world, immigration would be, you know, to the benefit, because immigration always brings wealth and income to wherever it happens. That's why immigration is such a important thing. It would be better if that kind of bounty, as it were, was spread across the entire nation, but that would also take the pressure off certain areas where you know, there is particular pressure on housing growth. However, you know, basically everybody agrees we need more affordable housing. I mean, not housing. There's such broad agreement on that fact, and yet no one can agree on how to actually do it. And you know, it's well, we'll come on to that. The task force recommendations at some later point, and maybe go through those in detail, because they are interesting. They are important. I think if implemented as planned, it would probably be a horrendous disaster, and it's far too geared again to weakening councils rather than respecting their role.
I think we'll save that for a future episode. But in the meantime, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back with the later part of our episode in just a moment. Okay, and we are back. So we're moving on from you know, we're talking about on the previous topic about boundary issues and the need for denser locations and whatnot. And it turns out the one place that you don't need, it's becoming a little less dense, is Mississauga.
Yeah, that's bizarre. I was really shocked by the statistic today. It was Alan Can, who was a guest last Thursday. His newsletter had an article that since 2016, the population of Mississauga has gone down. Not by much, but to go down at all, it for a 905 GTHA city is kind of astonishing. It's gone down by like 3,000, 4,000, something like that. But over actually more than 4 years, over 6 years, which just kind of blew my mind. It's like, how on earth have they managed? How on earth has that managed to happen when, like, all the growth targets for Mississauga is that it should be heading towards 900,000 at a rate of knots.
What I thought was interesting, though, is sorry. Finish your thought. I thought.
Well, as to say, I mean, the argument that Alan made was that, you know, that this is kind of reaping the whirlwind of Hurricane Hazel, if I can't make a really bad pun there. That you know, that was sprawl central.
Right.
They've built on everything. They've gone out to their boundary, and there's no space now. You know, even you know, there are plans and talks of intensification and kind of redesigning the entire downtown, the central kind of, you know, square one area of Mississauga. But it's really difficult to do now because you're uninventing the wheel, quite literally in a way, when you try to do that. So then you get the increased prices, and then, you know, I think we've talked before about how London unexpectedly has become one of the biggest growth places in the province, and perhaps because of those reasons. Well, it's cheaper.
Not by much. My brother lives out in London. I think what got me interesting about Mississauga is that it's an abnormality. You know, Brampton's population increased 10%. I didn't see Oakville or Burlington's on there, but my bet is that it increased as well. Milton increased as well. Like it's almost as like everyone left 5% or 0.5% of Mississauga left to go to these other places, boosting up their populations. I mean, maybe it's a sign of a trend. I doubt it. We'd have to get more data and another census happening, but that's what I'd be curious to know if this is if it's going to start a trend. I think a part of the problem is, you're right, Mississauga was just sprawl central. Like it for years, it was just there's a field, let's build some houses on it. There's a field, let's build a strip mall on it, or a plaza or whatever. And we mentioned a couple episodes ago, Mississauga has literally reached its limit. It's reached its wall. And yeah, I think people are looking around and saying, well, what exactly am I owning this giant McMansion in Mississauga? I could sell it and buy a place in London, or I could buy a place in Kitchener, Waterloo, or Guelph, or somewhere else.
And a few months ago, we spoke to Jay Karner about Mississauga, and he highlighted all the great things that go on. And Mississauga is really a community of communities, if you like. Mississauga kind of doesn't exist, but there are lots of places within its boundaries. Those all those old names that you go on the GO train. That have all kinds of reasons why they're be attractive and wonderful places to live. But when you say the one thing many of us know is well, certainly anybody who's knocked on doors during a council election in Burlington, what you heard constantly is, we don't want Burlington to be like Mississauga.
Right.
And that perception, whether accurate or inaccurate, is almost by the way. It's certainly a feeling out there that this is a badly designed city. Ironically, it's not the high rises that the problem in Mississauga so much as just the ridiculous amounts of sprawl. And really, I think it is time to start seriously reassessing Hazel McCallion's legacy, and that kind of completely free the freedom that she had for sort of decades on end to just build. And now, well, the fact that it's seems to be not the top of the list of anybody's list to move to, and the population's going to increase there. I'm astonished that they managed to lose population right as we're going through, all the major transit station areas, all the intensification targets, everything that's been going on. They still managed to lose people. It's really completely shocking that they managed to do that. But that's the stats from the census. So, and actually, the fact that they've dropped means they'll get less money now. Like all those kind of public services were based on those census numbers. They're going to lose money because of that.
Now, here's a question: do you think it would open up an opportunity for? We're talking about it's a shock and it's a tragedy, but maybe this might be the breather that Mississauga has to kind of catch itself and figure out, okay, how do we want to develop as a city? Because with those opportunities come chance to redesign a city that is a bit less sprawlish and a bit more, closer to that 15-minute idea that people want. I don't know. Like, do you think that might be a possibility?
I don't think there's anything wrong with Mississauga that a good marketing campaign can fix, I do think there have been huge mistakes in planning and development made over the last 50 years or more. But there's plenty of cities that have had terrible planning mistakes that are still great places to live. And I think, just as Jay pointed out, that within Mississauga are all these really interesting communities. It's just that the name Mississauga doesn't really connect anybody with any of that. You just have this kind of fairly amorphous, vague view of the thing that you drive past on the 403 or the 401. It's no, there's nothing wrong with Mississauga, but I do think it does need that to maybe have that kind of, and I think that the council has not been good at. I've been to so many events. Very often, political events are held in Mississauga. Party political stuff that will be held at a convention centre there, and the mayor, whichever mayor it was, would come and say, "Oh, yeah, it was a great city of Mississauga, blah blah blah," and like we're all kind of watching our watch to get home because we know we're by the airport and it's not really very attractive, and it's. Everybody would kind of roll their eyebrows when they heard this because, like, "Oh, you're kidding me? Yeah, we're all going to go for a day trip to downtown Mississauga. Give me a break." But I think if there was a serious attempt to almost like rebrand or explain the city to the wider world, there's actually all sorts of potential there. But yeah, I mean, how they've managed to lose people, I mean, I do not know. It's like I almost don't believe it. It's like,
I guess the question will be, will they find them again? Only time will tell.
The missing Mississaugans.
Oh, that sounds like a good title of a podcast. Sorry if you
true crime.
I'm taking mental notes, like a 905 or spinoff.
Anyway, well, I think we've got one more story. I think we thought we'd cover.
Yeah, just a small one, but it's I don't know. I thought it was interesting. It
interests us because we're more familiar with the local scene, I guess. Yeah. So it's another Burlington story, but it's also a Halton story in that the MPP for Burlington, Jane McKenna, has announced that she won't be seeking re-election at the provincial election, which is coming up in the start of June, I think, if not before.
June 2nd.
Yeah, and she's instead going to try and get elected as the regional chair of Halton, which, in theory, there's an incumbent. I don't want to announce anything that isn't my job to announce, but there's certainly been rumours and suspicion that the current regional chair, Gary Carr, who's been around for a good long time, about 4 terms, something like that, is not going to run again. I mean, he hasn't announced that. But there's certainly, I've heard it, muttered. And I don't think. Well, I would have been surprised if someone like Jane McKenna would have run if she thought that Gary Carr was going to run again. It throws a couple of cats among the pigeons. One, I think it means we might actually get an interesting regional election in Halton, which will be a first because there's really never been one. It used to be an appointed position, and then the elections were really kind of one-sided affairs every time under the first 2 regional chairs.
I'm just taking a look here because I wanted to. Because I mean, the big news is that there was a couple of MPPs who weren't running. I mean, if you take a look at the larger picture of Doug Ford's party, there's a couple of MPPs who are not running. We all remember Rod Phillips, who's a former minister. He's not Minister of Long-Term Care. He's not running again. I'm drawing up. I just looked. Bill Walker is not running, and Daryl Cramp won't be running as well in the next election. And it's just I find it interesting that there's a bit of a jump ship from the caucus, from the Tories. Now I'm not really surprised that Jane McKenna is jumping ship. I mean, I don't know. She hasn't really been anywhere.
I mean, the interesting. I will. Both of us have reasons to be accused of bias on this particular story. That we've both been involved in aiding people who are trying to get elected to seats that Jane won, or in one occasion, just one time in 70 years, lost. However. It hasn't been a spectacular rise to the top of provincial politics in her 2 times at Queen's Park.
No.
I found the thing that I found really quite irksome was that literally the week after she was re-elected, having defeated Eleanor McMahon, who was the MPP for the Liberals, she ran to become the Speaker, which, as basically, once you're Speaker, you're no longer a politician. I mean, you kind of are, but you're not really. You're very much separated out from the job of doing anything. I mean, it's a peculiar role. And it's like, well, so you've just run to represent the city and to be this amazing new, government or whatever, and now you're saying you don't actually want that job, but you do want the nice job where you get a huge apartment at the end of the of the corridors in Queen's Park, and and you get to have something of a kind of grand life. And this is kind of in that pattern. I mean, I know it's fine. Anybody can do it. Obviously, she has perfect right to run for Speaker. Didn't win, which is, anyway.
Well, the thing is with Speaker, it does come with a lot of responsibility. We don't think it does. I think it's just like, it's a guy in a robe sits at the top sits on the throne in the room and says, okay, you speak, now you speak, now you speak. It's something like you have to know the rules really well to be that Speaker. I don't think nothing in
it's a super important job.
It's important. It's
job.
Just,
and you have to be you should be respected by everybody in the house.
Well, that's the thing.
Regardless of party.
I suspect. I generally wonder if Jane just feels ostracized in Doug Ford's party. I don't. I mean, if you think about it, the only time we had any minister come to Burlington was when Steve Clark came to announce that they were moving the urban growth boundary urban growth center from the downtown to the gold lines. Other than that, we've never had, the minister, the premier didn't stop by to make any campaign announcements, even before COVID. It was. Yeah, I kind of got the sense that she was almost like a persona non grata at Queen's Park. Like normally, you normally get like somebody of some note, some like a high status cabinet minister come by to not shake hands and kiss babies and all that, and give you your token, the big policy win for Burlington. I got the sense that urban growth center movement was more of we'll give you a token win, Jane. Like this is a big win that you can use to win a re-election. Other than that, don't bother anyone at the premier's office. That was the kind of vibe I got from it. And it's, I can see, if you're not welcome at Queen's Park, go to the regional chair, because you're not going to win the mayor's seat.
It strikes me as somewhat in character for MPP McKenna to go for a job with a lot of prestige, but which doesn't come with some of the other less convenient aspects of being a politician. Being even a backbench MPP is bloody hard work. There's a lot of commuting. There's a lot of long hours. So I respect that. I've heard of politicians who've served at other levels of government who would not be a provincial MPP in somewhere like Burlington because you have to commute. Technically, they're allowed to have apartments or condos or whatever in Toronto. In practice, it's a no-no these days. I think the last MPP who did that was Joyce Savaline, kind of 15 years ago or so.
Yeah.
So it is hard work. And so do I blame someone for thinking, well, maybe I can have a more comfortable life doing this? Well, I guess it's a bit unfair. But I just don't, regional chair is an important job. And Jane McKenna has not ever been a minister. She's currently an associate minister, but that's associate minister is not a minister.
No,
however much she might like it to be.
I think it's clear. My suspicion would be that she realized this is as far as she's getting in this government. There's no path to sitting at the table.
No. I mean, it's like, if it get any further, she would have done so by now.
Yeah. So, fine. Like, if go to where people actually want to have you. Kudos to her, and made the best person win for the regional chair job.
Well, I mean, I think what it should guarantee is, I certainly hope that there is another person. This is not for the sake of I want someone to run to beat Jane McKenna. Mm-hmm. It's really a matter of I want people to run for the regional chair who are good people, and fair enough. Jane McKenna's got stature. I would like to see some other people of stature running to make it a real contest this time. And I think that would be great. I think the fact that basically nobody ever talks about regional politics, the fact that we've had an episode today, on Tuesday, talking about a really important issue, the fact that, one politician of significant stature has decided to run, and, there are certainly rumors of other people, with serious careers behind them who might come forward to run. I hope that happens and that it's a really good contest this time, and may the best person win. I think that'd be a really good thing for Halton Regional Council.
Let's leave it at that for today. Thank you everyone for listening. If you enjoyed what we talked about, please give us a like, a share, rate us 5 stars on whatever app you're using. And also take a look at our Patreon and our Buy Me a Coffee pages. Throw us a few bucks if you like. It helps keep the lights on here and keep the, keeps us awake at least. That's appreciated. Thanks very much, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.
That's it for this episode of the 905er. Thank you for listening. As always, you can send us your feedback, thoughts, and concerns, or ideas for future episodes to our email, info@905er.ca. We love to hear from you. You can help us keep the 905er going by financially supporting us through Patreon as well as PayPal. Visit us at 905er.ca and click on the support tab. As well, links are in the show notes for your convenience. Lastly, you can find us on social media. Search for _905er on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So long for now. See you next time.
Looking to make the most out of this life and optimize your personal wellness? Then check out the Natural Man Podcast. Join me, host Mike C., as we explore all areas of human wellness, physical, mental, and emotional. Learn strategies to optimize your own well-being and be in the driver's seat of your own health. Remember, your doctor works for you. Learn biohacks, neurohacks, ways to improve sleep, and ways to optimize your body and your mind. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, the Fountain app, and at naturalmanpodcast.com.